I'll show you how I rig up my lures so that they come out like this. You've got about 6 meters a leader or so to your lure with your hook just sort of hanging out the bottom. So how I run mine, I have about, I don't know, 5 to 6 meters of 200-pound leader. Yeah, you want it longer. Yeah, you want it definitely longer than the fish, if not twice the length of the fish, so that it's not going to rub on your main line. So you just thread this through your lure, your skirt, whatever size you want. I run about 10-inch skirts, give or take, 8 to 10s, roughly, just for those, you know, small blacks and stripes and things. So that one's a 10, that one's an 8. That's about the sizes that I'm running. So I'll run it through crimp. If you don't have any crimp stuff, make sure you get crimping pliers. So the setup I'll have is it'll be 1 crimp to a bit of chafe tube, your second crimp, so this will go through your hook here, and this will feed back through like so, and you just make this fold back whatever length of your lure it is, so that your hook will sit just tailing out the bottom like so. So I'll rig this up, show you what it looks like at the end, but 2 crimps, cut the chafe tube in half. So this is the tube I use. Cut that like so. That'll go through your hook here. This crimp will go just above that. And then once it's all done, bit of heat shrink over the top. So that's roughly how I like my hooks to sit. Just so the very tips of your skirt touching the hook, so the hook just drags out the back. So once you've got your length, just crimp it where it is. Make sure you leave a little bit of the edge of the crimp. Don't crimp it all the way on the end, because that will cause your line to cut. I like to give a couple twists in here, just sort of so it keeps it a bit straighter in the water. It doesn't bend and twist as much. Keeps it fairly straight under the skirt. And then you'll have a few mil, probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 mil hanging out the end, and then I'll just glob up the end, just melt the end a little bit. So that's sort of about 5 or 6 now, so that even if it does slip, which it shouldn't, but even if it does, that should stop it pulling through. And then run a bit of heat shrink over your hook. This just sort of stops your hook from bouncing around, stops it rubbing on the line, and we'll keep it fairly straight. Then you just shrink that down till it's nice and tight. So it'll look like so. That should stay fairly consistent in the water once it's being dragged, so it's not bending and turning and like flicking over on itself and catching. It should keep it fairly stiff. And your lure should just slide down and sit once it's in there, so that it'll sit nice and flat in the water. So should sit nice and open like that. You'll have your bottom side down, so when it comes and grabs a hook, that's how I like them to sit. And then all you do is sort of the same at the other end. Grab that bit of chafe tube that flicked away. Just run 2 crimps. And a bit of chafe tube. You don't need too much up this end because really all this does is connect to your snap swivel. So I only leave it straight over like that. It stops it, the possibility of it flipping around and rubbing. And then just this secondary one, again, couple twists, just keep it nice and stiff. Again, make sure you've got line out the top. You don't want to over crimp them, so you're not trying to cramp it on as hard as you possibly can and warp it, because that can actually cut your line. But again, just have a bit of tag out there, glob it up so that that can't slide through. And then all I do, you can buy a couple different things. You can have them with these little plastic ones that will just slide on. If you don't have any of those, just a little bit of tape's easy enough. But when I run my spread, I usually like to run sort of different colours. I always run my Lumo out in the shotgun, and this sort of stripy size will go in my long rigger, and then the bigger lures I tend to run in closer where there's a bit more wash, so they're a bit easier to see up in that wash. Again, different hooks, different sizes, but I usually run about a 9.0 depending. I ran out of these black ones, so I've just got these silver ones, but my spread might look something like that if I'm running 4. So shotgun out the back, long rigger, short rigger, and then yeah, if I am running different sizes, might have to throw just variation. That way the fish has got a lot to choose from.